You may be seated. Everyone should be nice and well rested. We got an extra hour of sleep, right? It's that time of year where we all fake each other out that it's actually an hour different than what it was. It's always been beyond me. But I wanted to just mention a couple things before I get started. A big thank you to the crew that helped put the shelter house roof on. Maybe after church sometime, you guys can take a quick look if you're driving through the back parking lot. We did get the metal roof on yesterday. Thank you to the crew of guys. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you guys for coming together. It's so awesome. Our go-to guy just so happened to be out of town, couldn't be involved. It's almost like no problem. We got another guy here in this ministry that can jump right in and just pick right up, and we ended up having a great time, and we got that finished, and that whole project's just about done. We got some soffit and some fascia and little trimmings, but for the most part, it is finished, and it's been a blessing to be on that little journey, and thank you to all the guys that's been involved in that. Another quick announcement, too, is I got a text a little bit ago. Of course, I knew this, but our youth pastor, Adam, is out ministering this morning at a different ministry, and he asked me to encourage our youth to please show up tonight. In his words, he says it's going to be the last normal youth service of the year. You know, we have lots of stuff coming up, through the holidays. They have lots of different things going on. We have lots of stuff going on here at the church. But he's asking you, please, youth, be there tonight for their last normal service of the year. And then thirdly, Chase did mention today is the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church. I know sometimes that stuff can be out of sight and out of mind. So I wanted to encourage you. You know one thing that I do, and of course you don't have to be like me. That's not what this is about, but I'm just making a suggestion. One thing that I do is you can get a free subscription to the Voice of the Martyrs magazine. They'll send them to you. Maybe go on that website. You can sign up and get a free subscription. I think it's either monthly or bi-monthly. They send a skinny little magazine, and it has stories just like that in it. And I always make sure that I read that magazine cover to cover every month, because then it makes me think of those people, and it makes me think of the persecuted brothers and sisters who, yes, they're across the pond, and we don't maybe live anything like them, but there are people that will be shot and thrown in jail if they carry this book around. If they profess Christianity, they will be houses burned down, put chains on them, throw them in a prison cell. There are people like that, there are nations like that this is illegal. And it's good to keep those things in the forefront of our mind. It really is. So, there's other great organizations out there, but, I kind of like Voice of the Martyrs. And like I said, go on their website, get that free subscription, and subject yourself to that stuff. A lot of times you think, oh, my life is so hard, I've got all these problems. Read about them, and then you'll see it isn't all so bad here. So, okay. That's all my announcements. Good morning to you all. Good to see so many souls here in the house of God this morning. It always blesses me to see people still come to church, even with the world and all of its noise. Last week, I preached out of the book of Jude. Talked about God being able, and that is a theme in the Bible, that God is indeed able to do that which He said He would do. But as I was preaching out of Jude, I did mention that, I like to study my word, and, I get my books out and I'll study them, and as I go through it, God just causes these things to jump out at me. It's almost like the way that I will set aside some time to allow God to speak to me through His word. And I hope that you may not be a pastor, but I hope that you still will set some time aside that will allow God to speak into your life. And it's just kind of how I do it. And, I preached out of Jude last week, and right before the book of Jude, you have the three, they're called the general epistles of John, 1, 2, and 3 John. And I was going through those books, before I got to Jude, and man, the book of 1 John has so many awesome things in it that you just go through it, and man, God was just pointing these little things out. And I always write these little notes down so later I can go back and look further into them. I was in 1 John, and I felt like God said, hey, son, write this down. Look into it a little bit further. So if you have your Bible this morning, and you know we always do our best to get these things up on the screen, turn to that book of 1 John, probably, I don't know, 4 books or so before Revelation, way towards the back.